Hello and welcome to another Bodgit and Leggit video. Now we have this 2004 Skoda Fabia behind us again. We've done videos on a clutch and we've also done a video on a service. And as you remember from the clutch video, I had real problems with this drive shaft. It fell apart, it was seized, I couldn't get it back on. Well, I got it back on, but it was an absolute nightmare. And essentially the drive shaft is seized and it's just too dangerous to let it out like this because it could, if it locks, it could lift the car, or it could do all sorts, damage the gearbox. Just, it's not worth risking. So we've got a brand new one to put on. And the problem we was having is this end here, as you can see, is nice, moves nice and easy. So as you drive up and down the road and bumps, this is designed to move. It's essentially like a CV joint, just like this end, but slightly different design, but essentially the same. So any bumps, the car will still kind of drive straight and constantly driving. At the minute, this one, or the old one, is kind of seized in that position. And I didn't put it on, I didn't fully put it on or tighten it properly because I knew I had to take it off. I can't test drive the car properly until I get this on. So the clutch seems fine, but I don't know until I actually bang this fella back on. It's very simple. There's 6 bolts, M8 splines that hold it here. We've got one of these funny kind of bolts I'll show you, 12-sided bolt there at the CV joint end, and we've just got to disconnect the track rod end and the ball joint, and essentially it's out. And the only way I could actually spin this is I had to put my axle stand on it, as you can see, lift the wheel straight, because if I let it down, this will not spin. It just locks into place. So I had to put pressure on it to actually get it to spin first. So this is what I used, just an M8 spline, a long reach, and I was able to get in this way. We get new bolts, because essentially, if you're not on these splines properly dead straight, so if you're on an angle like that, you can round and rip the insides out very, very quickly to make sure you're in all the way, because otherwise you could slip. And you need to be in all the way because it's so much better when you're in all the way. Don't want to slip out, you know what I mean? The way I lock the wheel, because as you are undoing these bolts, the wheel wants to turn. So what I've done is got a flat blade screwdriver. I wedged it between the disc, and as the disc turns, it hits the carrier, so it can't go any further. And that allows me to undo these bolts. It's the same way I'm going to use to actually tighten it, but put the screwdriver under here and I'll actually tighten it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to undo these 6 bolts, even though they are loose, because I never tightened them up fully when I was putting it back on. So I'm going to undo these 6 bolts around. Once I've done that, I'll turn the camera back on and we'll kind of do the rest. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm now going to let it down. And once I do this, I will not be able to turn this. This will be locked solid now. 2 studs in the wheel, and if I try and put this bar on it and turn it, what will happen? Oh, well, I've disconnected from there, so of course it's going to turn. Anyway, right, what we need to do is we need to disconnect the ball joint, the track rod end, and the actual bolt that holds in the drive shaft. And you need 3 sockets for that. It's really simple. We need a 13mm socket for these 3 bolts at the bottom. Need a 19mm socket for the track rod end, which just goes there. And for the actual drive shaft, you need a 36mm socket, but it has to be a 12-sided socket. So when you look at this is a 6-sided socket, and you can see there's more sides to this socket. That's because, as you can see from the bolt, there's 12 sides on the bolt. A normal 6-sided socket just will not fit into here. So you can see that's what you need. 36mm, 12 sides. And then we can whip this baby off. Now there is a chance we can just take these 3 bolts out of here and we might have enough room to take the drive shaft out without undoing the track rod end. Might. But just be careful of all your pipes and stuff. But whenever you go at anything as regards the suspension, you're going to have to get it tracked. So even we're going to be taking this off and you might drive down the road and think, oh, this is okay. I promise you, get it tracked. I don't show tracking because not everyone's going to have tracking gauges. So just go down to your local garage, get it tracked, and then you're not going to be wearing your tyres quickly. Yeah, this one. There's a special retaining clip at the top, and one of the bolts is broken away from it. So all you need is a farmer's tool, in other words, a vice grips. There we go. Should allow me now to take this off. And there we go. And that just went about 4 miles away. Great. I got it. It's nothing to worry about. It's just this little bolt has just kind of broken away from there, but the bolt is still fine. So I'm still going to use it. Now I'm going to take off the drive shaft one. And there we go. We do get a new bolt with that, so we're not going to reuse that. Now, let's see if we've got enough room. And we should have plenty of room without having to take off the drive shaft. Without having to take off the track rod end. Some cars you do, some cars you don't. We've got away with this one. Now, you get new bolts, but you don't get these new little plates. So I'll show you the plates in a second. But this, well, this is just completely, as you can see, it's just completely gone. It's not even sitting in level now. There is a technical term, special word, it's fucked. As you take out the bolts, you'll see these little kind of spread washers. There's 3 of them. You don't get them with the new kit, so we need to put them back on. Now, normally I wouldn't have put the old drive shaft on once I realized it was kind of bad, but it took 5 days to get it here because no one had it in stock and they weren't in a bad rush with the car, so I needed to get it off the lift so I could do other things. But if you do come across this problem, it's best just to change it, because I had to put it back in anyway, so it's just a case of we're putting a new one in as putting the old one in. It's the same thing. But anyway, well, I suppose you get a video out of it. Right, so what I've got to do now is put the grease in the new drive shaft. Now you do have to be careful. You can see this has got a cable tie on it. When you cut this cable tie off, this can come out very, very easy, and it's not easy to get back in. This is a little gasket and it goes just inside here. You can see obviously when the cable tie is gone. What I do need to do is you get a load of grease. You get a pouch of grease, and I need to get the grease in here as much and as best as I can without having this come off. There's no point me showing you putting grease in, but I'm just going to cut a little hole in the top and I'm going to kind of squeeze it in and work its way around and work it all the way in, because otherwise it won't last very long if you don't. So once I've done that and cut the cable tie first and then put the grease in, then I'll turn the camera back on. Right, so I've got grease in it. The easiest way to do it is, as you can see, they haven't put a clip on here, because you put your clip on afterwards. You push this down and you pack all the grease in and around the bottom, and then you can put as much as you can on top. But at least when it's in on the bottom, as this is spinning, all the grease is going to be kind of moving around. So that's the easiest way to do it. We'll put the clip on afterwards. But what you want to make sure is, make sure we get this good. What I make sure is the holes line up. So this is lined up with the holes. I've put the little gasket in too. I don't know if you can see that, but the little gasket's in there as well. And these are kind of little washer load spreader things. As you can see, the 2 bolts go in there. And there's 3 of them and 6 bolts. So I'm going to put them in first, just by hand, before I actually offer it up onto the car. Right, so we've got all the bolts in, we've got all the washers in, and now we're ready to put this back into place, and hopefully it goes in a hell of a lot easier than the last one. So put this end in just to get it in. Line up the splines, give it a bit of a wiggle. That's now in. I'm just going to put this bolt just in, just by hand, a couple of threads. It'll just help me rather than the drive shaft keep popping out all the time. Now, this is the tricky thing. We need to line the 6 holes up, and that can be quite awkward before we start putting in. And not only that, we're about 1.5 inches away from the hole, so we're going to have to put the bottom ball joint in first. Don't have to put the bolts in, we have to put the ball joint in kind of like that, just so, as you can see, it will actually allow the drive shaft to go in place. I've just pulled that back out, so there we go. Now, so the drive shaft is kind of in place. I'm just going to put 1 bolt through just so it can't really slide out. And then just put it in a couple of threads. Now, it's just now, that really can't come out because that can be annoying. That just keep moving backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. Now what I've got to do, I'm not going to be able to film it, but I've got to, you have two options. You either try and do it at the angle it's at, so you can just slightly turn the top of the drive shaft, or if you're on the floor or on the lift, doesn't really matter, get a jack up the wishbone, which is what I'm going to do. So I'll just jack this up until it's level. As you can see, it's going up. Now if you are doing something like this, and if you are doing it on the floor, just bear in mind you're not supporting the whole weight. And what I mean by that is, if you've got an axle stand underneath and the car starts coming away from the axle stand, readjust your axle stand. You don't want to be putting all the pressure through this. All I'm doing is literally compressing the spring. That's all I want to be doing. I don't want to be lifting the car from this point. I'm just compressing the spring. You see that shaft is getting straighter and straighter. Now it's more or less straight there now within reason. It's just falling out. And now what I can do, which is a pain, but it's possible, get my spline, 8mm, and I turn this because we're not lined up about there, and now try and just wiggle and get one started and go around all 6 until they're in. You can be lucky or it can be an absolute nightmare. Now, I've got really lucky there. One's gone in. Now, to be honest, it never goes in that easy before. When the drive shaft's at more of an angle, it is harder. It's still possible, but a lot harder. I've got one in. I want to spin this round completely now so I can get the other. Oh, I'm not going to be able to do that. I was hopefully, sometimes you can, but obviously I can't this time. So I'm going to have to get another one in at the bottom. And this one's not lined up now. Maybe move the wheel a bit. Get it to line up. Is that going in? Nope. This is the problem. Even though I've got one lined up, this is why I want to get, it's best to kind of get the corners like you would tighten a wheel so you can get it nice and evenly on. I'm going to turn this and hopefully, yeah, I can turn it. It's just going to move a little bit, but that's not a big deal. To turn it, and if I can get the opposite side on, that should have it nice and level. So it means now, I got that on. Again, it's pointless me showing because as soon as you do this, you'll know. I'm just going to go around and get all them 6 hand tight first. I'm not going to tighten anything, get all 6 bolts on hand tight, and then we'll actually tighten it. Once I've done that, we'll turn the camera back. Right, so they're all in, none of them are tight. And the easiest way to tighten them, get a screwdriver and put it in between the disc, so in between the vented disc. Now, if you haven't got a vented disc, you can use vice grips on the disc. There's a few different ways of doing it. That will stop as I put it in here, as I try to tighten this. That will stop the disc turning. So it's going to turn a little bit and then it will stop. And you can normally do 2 at once and then you have to turn the disc again. So we'll just get that nice and tight. So that's 1, and you want to count because there's 6. So I just count. That's 2. Take it out, spin it. A bit of help in spinning it. Line up the next 2, which is about there. Put the screwdriver in again. Screwdriver wants to slip out. So this is going to be 3. Hopefully I'm not getting in the way of the camera. You get the idea. That's 3. It's going to be 4. And the rest now. And that's it. We've tightened that up. About there. Wedge the disc again. Go. Now. That's it. Now. And there you go. What we need to do now is we need to put a clip on that boot there to stop all the grease from flying out. I didn't get a clip with the new CV joint. I should have done, but it wasn't there. But I do have some. And all this is, it's a clip. So you can see there's marks there. So I clip it around, whichever one it happens to fit on. A special tool comes in here and actually clamps it together and makes it tight. And this is the tool. As you can see, these two ends crimps it together, so that just sits in there like that and crimps together and makes it tight. It really is as simple as that. So I just need to undo this. It's essentially like a Juby clip, but it can only be used once. I just need to find out which one I need to clip it on. I need to cut this then, because this is a universal one. So I need to cut that much off first. So now I've done that, we should be able to put this on. Need to get it as tight as you can. See if I can get the camera under here a bit better. So hopefully you can see that clip. Here we go. So as tight as I can, and then the tool comes in, crimps the two ends together, and then makes that tight. And that is now tight. What you do sometimes need to do is these two little hooks that you've hooked into, I just like to flatten them off. So just get and that's it. As you can see, that is now on. Lovely. Right, I've tightened the 3 bolts under here, just the 3 ball joint bolts. We're now going to tighten the actual main CV bolt. So remember, 36mm, 12-sided. Now, I was going to give that a squeeze with a bar, but now I should be able to release the pressure on this. Drive shaft is down. One thing I want to check is, can I spin this now? Because that's what I couldn't do before. I'll just use this. That's nice. I couldn't do that before. Once it was level, it would obviously spin, but once it was at an angle like this, it just wouldn't spin. And as we can see, that is spinning lovely. So I'm just going to wedge that disc again, and I'm going to tighten that by hand with the big bar, but that is it. Nothing to it. So that's kind of, we've done on this, we've done a clutch, we've done a service, and we've also done a drive shaft. So if you have one of these, watch the videos, that's how you do it. Simple. Simple. So hope it helps. Thumbs up, subscribe, all that, tell everybody, and just do all that. If you want to follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, all our links are down below, even to our website and to our forum. I haven't really been on the forum much, and I kind of need to get that going a lot better than what it is. But if you haven't joined, join up the forum. And yes, that's it really. But most importantly, don't forget, get your hands dirty. See you for the next one.